Hey there folks, it's Blue here at Blue Bears Games, and over the next 2 days, I will be unboxing and then upgrading the Planeswalker Party Commander Precon from the Commander Master Set that was released in August of 2023. Before I get to today's video, I want to take a moment to ask for your help in supporting my channel, which you can do so in a few different ways. The easiest ways are by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, sharing any of my content out on your socials, and or by watching some of my many other videos. In addition to those, if you're interested in other methods that you can use to help support my channel monetarily, please read the description of this video, and there you will find a myriad of options for what you can do to help me keep this channel going. Anything that you can do to help support my small channel is greatly appreciated, and I thank you for it. Now with that out of the way, let's get started. Today's video will be the unboxing of the Planeswalker Party Commander Masters Precon, where I'll show you everything that comes in the box, including the deck card by card, and then tomorrow I will give you the upgrade guide where I'll show you some options on what you can take out and also what you can add in to help make this deck a little better. This Precon suggests using Commodore Guff as the commander, so let's take a look at that real quick. Commodore Guff is a Planeswalker that costs 1 red, 1 white, 1 blue, and 1 generic mana, and has 3 abilities, one of which is a static ability, and the other 2 are activated Planeswalker abilities. The static ability says at the beginning of your end step, put a loyalty counter on another target Planeswalker that you control. The first loyalty ability is an add 1 loyalty counter ability, and says to create a 1/1 red wizard creature token with an ability that says to tap it to add 1 red mana to your mana pool, which you can spend this mana only to cast Planeswalker spells. The second loyalty ability is a -3 loyalty counter ability, and says draw X cards, and Commodore Guff deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of Planeswalkers that you control. There is actually one last line on Commodore Guff that says it can be your commander, but that should be obvious since it's the face card on the box. The most important thing that you need to know if you want to play this deck is how Planeswalkers work. I will not be going over that in this video, but if you need to know how they work, ask in the comments, or go to the Blue Bears Games Facebook page and send me a message asking how, and I will be happy to do so. Going by the name of this Precon, the fact that the commander is a Planeswalker, and then all 3 of Commodore Guff's abilities, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this deck will be centered around a Planeswalker theme, sometimes known as Super Friends. I know, I'm really going out on a limb here with that guess, huh? Seriously though, it's obviously Planeswalker themed, but what I don't know is what else this build wants to do, so let's just get to it and see what's in the box. So here's what the outside of the box looks like. So we have Commodore Guff on the outside. It's a picture, it's not the actual card. It's called Planeswalker Party. Here are the 3 colors. And on the back, command an army of Planeswalkers. So let's open it up. So we have the insert stuff, so it's got +1/+1 counters on it. And then we're back to the nice dividers that they gave us for a while. They took them away for a little bit and then they gave them back. The unfortunate part is they went back to these crappy boxes, but you can't get everything, right? So if they have the good box, they have the crappy dividers. If they have the bad box, they have the good dividers. Alright, let's see the rest of it. Alright, we have little insert. We should know about these by now. Has Commodore Guff on it and the extra rules for Commander, playing the deck, a little guide there, so throw that aside because that doesn't really do anything for us for now. Divider that is to help space out when they ship. We've got the sample pack, the Collector's Booster sample pack, which we'll open in a second. A generic life wheel, which is nice that they're doing generic ones because you never know what you're going to be playing, so why not? And then, of course, we have the deck, which is why we're here. So let's open up the sample pack first, and then we'll get to the deck. Let me zoom a little bit. See if we can't get it nice and focused in the screen. And see if we get anything good. And the first card is a Zombie Lady of Scrolls in the profile. They do a profile picture for the Commander Master set of all the legends. That's not horrible, not monetarily valuable, I'm sure. And then Darksteel Mutation foil. So, I mean, okay. I don't know what they're worth, but I'll have it up there for you. So let's put these aside and get to what we're here for. The deck. Looks like I gotta zoom a little bit more. There we go. So open it up. Take a little cellophane foil, wrap you off. Plastic, I don't know if it's cellophane or foil. It looks like a cigarette pack, to be honest with you. Divide the deck to make it easier to get through for everything else aside. And show you everything in the deck. So I already went over what Commodore Guff does, so we have an idea of what the deck should be about. Looks like the secondary commander is Leori Spark-Touched Hunter. So this costs one of each color, so one white, one red, one blue, for a 3/3 legendary elemental cat that has flying, vigilance, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, choose a Planeswalker type. Until end of turn, whenever you activate an ability of a Planeswalker of that type, copy that ability, and you may choose new targets for the copies. So what that actually means for type. So Planeswalkers have types based on what they are. So if it's a Jace Planeswalker, that's a type. If it's a Sarkhan Planeswalker, that's a type. That's what they mean by choose a type. And the rest of the deck we'll go over. It's mostly all reprints because this is a master set. So Cartographer's Hawk goes and gets land for you. Situationally, but it still goes and gets you a land. Puts it in your hand. Path to Exile for removal. Kazul, Tyrant of the Cliffs. So defensively, this is good. So whenever somebody attacks you, that person must pay 3 for each creature that's attacking, or else you create a 3/3 red ogre creature token. Arcane Signet, which goes in every precon. Felwar Stone. Soul Ring. Command Tower. Myriad Landscape, kind of weird in a 3-color deck because you might not have that many of the same basic land type, but you'll have some, so that, I mean, it could work. Reliquary Tower. Grateful Apparition because it can proliferate. It's a weak version of Proliferate, but it's Proliferate nonetheless. Oreskos Explorer, so this goes and gets you a land and puts it into your hand, specifically a plains, I believe. Swords to Plowshares, another good removal card. The Wanderer. Okay, so this is the first Planeswalker we're going to come across. I actually use the Wanderer in some decks just because it prevents all non-combat damage that would be dealt to you and other permanents that you control. So it stops damage-based removal. It does not stop instant spells that are kill spells like Murder or things like that. Doesn't have an uptick either, which is kind of crappy. Alright, Flux Channeler. It's a 3-cast 2/2 that whenever you cast a non-creature spell, and this is a Planeswalker deck, so those count as non-creatures, you proliferate. Fogbank, it's kind of crappy. This is probably coming out for the upgrade guide. So it's a 2-cast 2/2 with Defender flying and then prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to and dealt by Fogbank. To help to defend, because this has to have some sort of defense mechanism. Narset, Parter of Veils, is actually one of the better Planeswalkers, specifically at the uncommon slot. So it's 3-cast, comes into play with 5 loyalty counters. Does not have an uptick, which is what kind of hurts it, but you can proliferate loyalty counters onto it. It says each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. And in Commander, that's very devastating. And then you can look at cards from the top of your library and put, I think it's non-creature spells? Yeah, a non-creature, non-land card from among the 4 that you look at into your hand. Frummingbird, another proliferate creature. Not a very great one, especially if you don't have any way to evade. I mean, flying is good, but that's the weakest form of evasion at this point. Saheeli, Sublime Artificer, 3-cast, comes into play with 5 loyalty counters, and then whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you create a 1/1 servo creature token. And then the other part, I don't really ever use the Saheeli for the loyalty abilities, but it does turn something that you control, I believe it's an artifact. Yeah, target artifact or creature you control becomes a copy of another artifact or creature that you control until end of turn. It's alright. Wall of Denial, so more defense. It's a 3-cast 0/8 Defender flying with Shroud, so it can't be targeted. Azorius Signet, so that's a ramp card. Boros Signet, I'm assuming that we're going to have 3 of them, the 3 different kinds that could go in this deck. Honor Worn Shaku, I believe that's how it's said. 3-cast artifact that taps to add a colorless, but you can also tap an untapped legendary permanent that you control to untap it. So legendary permanent actually means Planeswalker as well, because they are all legendaries, and you don't really ever have a reason to care about a Planeswalker being tapped or untapped, so that's actually not horrible in this deck. There's the third one, the Izzet Signet. Then I believe that we're going to have all 3 talismans, so there's the the white-red one. Conviction, Creativity is blue-red, and then Progress is blue-white. Wayfarer's Bauble to go get land and put into play. Forge of Heroes. Okay, so it's a land that taps out a colorless, then you can tap it to choose a commander that entered the battlefield this turn and put a +1/+1 counter on it if it was a creature, or a loyalty counter on it if it was a planeswalker. This is actually not a bad land, especially for a precon. Mangara the Diplomat, 4 to cast, 2/4 with lifelink, and then it allows you to draw cards if an opponent attacks you with 2 or more creatures, and it has to be you or planeswalkers. Or you can draw a card whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn. Good card draw for white. Gatewatch Beacon, 3 cast artifact that taps to add white. And then when it enters the battlefield, it enters with 3 loyalty counters. And then whenever a planeswalker you control enters the battlefield, you can take 1 from this and put it on that planeswalker. Onaka Oathkeeper, 2 to cast 04. Creatures can't attack planeswalkers that you control unless their controller pays an additional 1 generic mana for each creature they control that's attacking that planeswalker. And then for 6, you can exile it from your graveyard to return target planeswalker from your graveyard to the battlefield. So that's not bad either. So it's a little bit of below 40, and it actually fits the planeswalker theme. Teo, what's that? Geometric Tactician, 3 to cast, 3 loyalty counters, has 3 abilities, 1 of which is a static ability. The static ability is when it enters the battlefield, you create an 0/4 white wall creature that's got Defender and flying. Okay. An uptick that says you and target opponent each draw a card, which I don't like giving my opponent any kind of fuel. And then a down tick of 2. There is no ultimate on this one because this is a rare planeswalker, and that's usually the case for them. And it says choose left or right until your next turn. Each player may attack only the player to whichever was chosen, to the side of whichever was chosen. So if you chose left, they can only attack left. If you chose right, they can only attack right. Spark Shaper Visionary, 3 to cast for an 05. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you choose a number of target planeswalkers that you control. Until end of turn, they become 3/3 blue bird creatures with flying, hexproof, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you scry 1. It's alright. I'm not going to read all of the planeswalkers. If you want to read them, I'll hold them here for a second. You can pause the video to read them. But this one is Vranos Masked Inquisitor. It's 5 to cast, comes with 5 loyalties, and has 3 abilities. This one actually has an ultimate. I'll read the ultimate. The ultimate for taking 7 loyalty counters off, which is pretty easy to get to because it starts with 5. And if you proliferate once, you're there already. Because you can use its uptick ability and then proliferate. And it says target artifact that you control becomes a 9/9 construct artifact creature that gains vigilance, indestructible, and this creature can't be blocked. So it's an alright card. Not really that great. Chandra, Legacy of Fire, so 2 abilities. This is another rare one where it doesn't have an ultimate. And actually none of the abilities here take any loyalty counters away, which is unusual for a planeswalker. So if you want to read that, you can go ahead and do so. Guff rewrites history, 3 to cast artifact. For each player, choose target non-enchantment, non-land permanent that player controls. Those permanents, owners shuffle them into their library. Okay, this is kind of like the other red card that does it for 3, where it shuffles something in and then they reveal cards from the top of their library until they reveal a permanent and put it into play. Jaya's Phoenix, 5 to cast, 3/3. It's a Phoenix, so it will return itself to play in some way, shape, or form, which is kind of cool. So it has flying and haste. When it deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, the next loyalty ability that you activate this turn, you can activate, you copy it, and choose new targets for the copy. And then whenever you cast a planeswalker spell, you may return this from the graveyard to play. That's not horrible. Actually, it's pretty good. Ajani Steadfast, you can go ahead and read all of what it does if you'd like. Deploy the Gatewatch. Not really a fan of this, especially at the 6 mana cost. I know that Commander doesn't really care so much about high casting cost that much, but I don't really like this card to begin with. Elspeth, Sun's Champion. So this one's a good actual one planeswalker for this deck because it actually puts defending creatures out for you to stop people from attacking your planeswalkers and buffs them. Gideon Jorah. Norn's Annex, some more Pillow Fort style stuff. Oath of Gideon. Not really a fan of most of the oaths. Promise of Loyalty. Semester's End. Not a fan of this card either. Urza's Rona's Blast. So it's removal for all non-land permanents that aren't legendary. Deep Glow Skate, puts counters on things, on something one time. Jace Beleren, it's the mill version of Jace. Jace Architect of Thought. Jace Mirror Mage, it's one of the unique ones that has kicker. Not very many do. Oath of Jace. Spark Double, which is very interesting because I really like this card. I am a big fan of clones. When I first started playing Magic, I did a clone doppelganger deck because I like the idea of it. This is like the king of clones. Blasphemous Act, which is kind of crappy considering that we're in white as well. And white has the best board wipes in the game, hands down. So why would you go Blasphemous Act? And I remember that in this set, Wrath of God was reprinted. So why would they put this instead of Wrath of God? Chandra, Awakened Inferno. This one has 4 abilities, but the first ability just says that this spell can't be countered, so it's not really an ability per se, but it is. Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Repeated Reverberation, so it copies things. That's the first half of the deck. Second half will have the tokens and the lands in it, so it should go quickly. Sarkhan, the Masterless. Nahiri, the Harbinger. Narset of the Ancient Way, which is not very good in multiplayer Magic. This one's more single opponent stuff, so I don't understand why this is in there, other than it matches the colors. Narset Enlightened. Here's something really cool about this version of Narset. Technically, you could swap this in as your commander because it allows you to play non-creature spells for free. Just giving it evasion is really all you need, so things like a Rogue's Passage would be great, which will be suggested in the upgrade guide tomorrow. Oath of Teferi. The Chain Veil, very good card for this deck. This is absolutely a must-add for any quote-unquote Super Friends deck, which is what Planeswalker decks are called. It says at the beginning of your end step, if you didn't activate a loyalty ability of a Planeswalker that you control, you lose 2 life. You shouldn't have that big of an issue with that, because the next ability says for 4 and tapping it, for each Planeswalker that you control, you may activate one of its loyalty abilities once this turn as though you hadn't already activated a loyalty ability. So it lets you do the plus and the minus in one turn, or 2 of the pluses, whatever have you. This is a really good card for Planeswalker decks. Nevinyrral's Disc. So instead of like Wrath of God, they went with Nevinyrral's Disc. And I know why they didn't. I would have done this too. I actually did this. My old Aloro deck had Nevinyrral's Disc in it. That was my Super Friends deck. I use Nevinyrral's Disc because it destroys just about everything on the field except for Planeswalkers and lands. Silent Arbiter. So I don't see crawl space in here. This is basically crawl space on a stick. For the most part, I think there's one small wording difference on them. But this one says no more than one creature can attack each combat and no more than one creature can block each combat. I believe crawl space says attack you, so I'm not sure. Memory's a little foggy. So some lands. Cascade Bluffs. I do like the filter lands better than I like the pain lands, so that's not bad to see. Exotic Orchard, which is in every precon. Frostboil Snarl, so we're going to have some basic budget dual lands. Fury, Calm, Snarl, Karn's Bastion, which is actually really good that they included this in the precon, or else I would have had to suggest it in the upgrade guide. It proliferates for you for just 4 mana. Mobilized District, Mystic Gate, some more filter lands. Port Town, Prairie Stream, Rugged Prairie. So all 3 filter lands are in this deck. That's actually very nice of them. Skycloud Expanse, bad filter lands, and of course the crappy temples that are in every precon, because why were these even printed? There's all 3. Interplanar Beacon. Whenever you cast a Planeswalker spell, you gain a life. You can tap it to add a colorless, or you can pay 1 and tap it to add 2 mana of different colors and spend this mana only to cast Planeswalker spells. So I actually had this in my version of a Super Friends deck as well. Mystic Monastery. Looks like we're going to hit the basics, so islands, mountains, plains, and then we're going to come to the tokens and the extra thick version of Commodore Guff, because if you take a look, it's a little thicker than most cards, and it actually doesn't bend as well. And then the tokens, which are pretty simple. We're going to have walls, dragon, and a Johnny emblem, a Chandra emblem, another Chandra with the other one, Narset emblem. Okay, so we have the emblems, some soldier tokens, probably for the one that puts out 3 soldiers. Then on the back, ogres, servos, copy tokens, wizard tokens, and core ally tokens. And that, my friends, is what is in the Planeswalker Party Commander Masters precon. I get that Wizards makes these precons to help people get started, but if you're gonna make a Planeswalker one, especially in conjunction with a Master set for a premium price point, can we at least get some better Planeswalkers? There were 17 total Planeswalkers in the box, and of those 17, only a handful were somewhat decent, and none were truly game-breaking. On top of that, I mentioned in the video that I believe Narset Enlightened Master may actually be a better fit as the commander of this deck over Commodore Guff, and I meant it. While that version of Narset typically helms Spellslinger themed decks, there's no reason why she can't helm a Super Friends themed deck. That leads me to ask you to join me tomorrow for the upgrade guide portion of this week's videos. This deck seems to need a lot of help, so be sure to come back tomorrow and see what I can come up with to help make this deck at least a little better. As for this video, that's all I've got for you, so thanks for watching. If you're looking for more of my content to watch, please browse my playlists, as I'm sure you'll find a lot more videos that you'll enjoy, and then please be sure to come back tomorrow for the upgrade guide. Have a nice day, and I hope to see you again real soon.